Yeah.
Please, they've changed the code in the White House.
I can't believe. Yeah, they gotta change it.
They gotta change the
They
code.
gotta let my man.
This doesn't work.
Like, can I get in the White House?
I'm gonna blow up Iran.
Like, can I get in the White House?
Yeah, this is gonna be a bagels and couscous war, man.
Hey, you know what? They should just let them do what they do.
Make sure we're not on.
Right, exactly.
I'm glad I don't have a kid or a relative part of the military, man. Because I would tell you, man, you got to get to Canada as quickly as you can.
I would be all for that.
Dabo presents Bullseye Sports, keeping Detroit on target. Hosted by James Wardell, Mark Jones, Reggie Walker, and Jack Barthwell.
Well, we had three of us here today. Jack.
What up, Detroit?
And Reggie.
Coming off the platform. I'm sorry. What's up, ladies and gentlemen?
You know, we had one show planned today, but at about 5 o'clock, I would say, the Lakers were sold for $10 billion.
10 billion?
Yes, billion with a B. They bought the team in 1979 for $67 million, and now are selling them for $10 billion, and have a 15% ownership interest even after the $10 billion sale. So I'm gonna get to my co-host on this and see what they have to say about this.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm shocked. I'm not necessarily shocked that this decision was made by Genie, I'm sure, because the Lakers are the last ownership group in the league that are owned by a family or entity where the team is the only money-making, part of their empire. Life is getting expensive even for the rich, and they don't have no other, source of income. I think it was solely time for them to cash in this asset. They probably could have got, a little bit more, a couple more billions if they had done it a year or two ago, before LeBron started talking about retiring. But man, I just think that $10 billion, $4 billion more than the Celtics went for. I don't know if this sets a new, this is just a new ceiling. I don't know how much it's going to raise the value of, say, the Grizzlies, or who are also in the news this week, or the Jazz, who just got a new ownership group, or whatever. I have no idea what this effect is on the rest of the league, but this is a massive, massive story.
It sets the bar high, but who can eclipse this bar? I think only maybe one team.
Was it the Warriors?
No.
Are you talking about all sports?
All sports.
It's just the Yankees.
Yankees,
Just the Yankees.
I would say.
Maybe Cowboys, because you get the stadium with it.
Well, I don't know if Jerry ever gonna say it.
Oh no, that's definitely. But yeah, and that the point I made before we went on the air. Hal Steinbrenner absolutely saw this story and went, "Huh."
No question. Don't have to deal with the apathy of the fans in New York and all the vitriol that he takes. You know what? Let me take a few bill. You know what? Create a little FU money for the legacy, right? And be done with it. And you can't blame him. I mean, you know what? It seems strange for me to think that I'm old enough to remember when $1 billion was almost a theoretical number, right? Mm-hmm. So we're now in an age where, you know what? Literally, there are people that own 1,000 units of $1 million. In Jim's case, right. It's 10,000 units of $1 million.
That's an unfathomable number.
Yeah, that's FU money. And you know what? Good for the Buss family. And you're right. You know what? I think the only thing that potentially would have faced the Los Angeles Lakers, if at some point municipalities start to say, "Hey, look, guys, you as private entities are worth so much. you can afford to finance your own stadiums without the public good.
Yeah.
And if that became a consideration for Genie Bus, then yeah,
It
absolutely,
was over.
you got to sell. It's time to sell that team.
They were sold to financier Mark Walter, who also is principal owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers.
How much money does he have?
He
I
must
wonder
have
if he was at a Diddy party.
and
He might. Well, I don't want to touch that, but
yeah, no.
he got. How much money does he have?
He is a equity person, so you know they have an infinite amount of money.
Right.
He also is good friends with Magic Johnson, who is also a co-owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I would say if Magic doesn't have a stake in the Lakers, he will probably get a stake. But can he own in 3 different leagues?
Sure.
Well, it used to be the NFL said you couldn't own it. And that clearly must not be a rule anymore.
Because I thought at one point that he sold his Lakers shares
Because he wanted
to go to the Dodgers.
I thought it was to go to the
Commanders.
It used to be the rule. Well, it must be the rule because isn't Stan?
So I'm thinking about Kroenke.
Stan is the principal owner of the
Avalanche and
I think Josh is the owner on paper.
Yeah, Josh is the owner.
Of everybody else except Arsenal. Stan is the owner on paper of Arsenal because it's a different country.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm 80% sure Josh is the president of or the owner of the Avalanche.
Is that a rule of the NFL or is that a rule of?
That's an NFL rule. Okay. I forget when I learned it, but it was it must have been when Stan was trying to move the Rams.
I think it becomes that if you own multiple teams like that, you probably find yourself so leveraged that if you're trying to do public good for the team, new stadiums, whatever it may be, you don't have the wherewithal to be able to do that. So that's probably.
And plus, I think the argument's right. The overhead of you being the principal owner of 2 teams, including one that you have 1,000 employees essentially.
No question.
We're not doing that. But obviously, when you have this much money, that is of little consequence. You just give your son be the owner of the other stuff.
I mean, as we relate this Los Angeles Lakers story, let's bring it forward with the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
You know what? If you think Gorse is making money with the Detroit Pistons right now, he ain't, man. You know what? He's losing money. I mean, this is what billionaires do for fun. Hey, you know what? I'm so freaking wealthy that I can afford to own a team or something for which I lose millions of dollars every year. Right. And very few people can afford to do that.
Yeah, it's tax write-off. Plus, he knows when he eventually does sell it,
He's gonna make his
he's gonna
money
make
back.
his money back times, whatever.
Well, how much do you think the Pistons would be worth?
On the open market, or if they stay in Detroit?
Well, then you're gonna assume they're gonna stay. Where
They gotta
go?
stay.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA probably would never let them move. They're considered one of those franchises. However, you got to imagine that there's a lot of clamor to get a team back in Seattle right now.
Yeah, but we got a new building.
Yeah, but there's gonna be a
Yeah,
expansion.
but that building was not necessarily designed for the Detroit.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because they split it.
They
That's
split it,
right.
absolutely.
It's not the same. You're right.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, one of the worst things that ever happened with Tom Gorse was actually
Was him
moving out of the
yeah,
Dallas.
He should have kept. Yeah, why?
Bad. You know what? He got hoodwinked down there.
Well, he made his money in the prison system, so
Well,
partly, of course, there.
I believe that the Palace drove the shock away. I believe the Pistons would have been all right, but we're one of the only, I think us in Philadelphia, where you have all 4 major sports teams within walking distance of each other.
Yeah.
Now, how much? Do you think $3 billion?
I was going to say 3. I think that's the new. I don't want to say floor because I don't think the Pistons are a floor type valuation, but I know they're not super high
You've got to figure the Pistons are somewhere between
because they don't have their own buildings.
16 and 22.
That sounds probably about right because Detroit, is not the biggest market.
It's
Well,
the major cities, and then it's
we
right
say
away.
that, but they're 4 million.
$4 million. True, in the metro area.
people in the metro area.
We're a top 15 market. Let's put it
Yeah,
there. But from a perspective of overall media reach, we are a top 15 market.
Yeah,
Are we in New York, Chicago, LA? I'd even say San Francisco. No.
right.
Philadelphia, Atlanta, Dallas, no.
Philadelphia. Well, Atlanta, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
No, Atlanta's a bigger metropolitan area. than
No.
Detroit right
I would say no because there are even less people in the city.
now. But the metropolitan area, though.
I had to look that up. I would say no, Atlanta. Now, Dallas, Houston, maybe even San Antonio.
And Nashville's soon to be climbing.
Nashville, it wouldn't shock me, especially after the news is coming out about players don't want to come to Memphis, if the Grizzlies would move to Nashville.
All right, I was gonna say, is that what is Stephen A. carrying the water for the future Nashville ownership group / the NBA, or is this some organically?
Right now, it's just me talking. And, Stephen A. talks outside of his mouth a lot of times.
I like where your head's at though with that, because I mean, I've heard Nashville wants a baseball team. They've already got a hockey team.
Baseball, I know they want, but I don't know. Nashville has, I graduated 40 years ago in Nashville, and it's grown where there's not a lot of free land to build a baseball stadium.
Sure.
They just built a new one downtown for the minor league team.
Okay, but it's not up to
And even the soccer stadium is set out in a way that you've got to drive. It's in the city proper, but you had to. It's set far, far away, and you have to park far away. So
and the Titans are in Nashville, right?
yes, and they're building them a brand new stadium, indoor stadium.
Huh?
Yes.
How old is the stadium they in right now?
It was built in 1999, but they want to. They want to compete for a Super Bowl.
What year was that stadium built?
1999.
Professor? Oh, they're getting a what? What are they getting this year? A new stadium?
Not this year.
Well,
I think
they built it.
They're building it. They're building it in the parking lot. But it's going to be.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the problem. If you got a stadium that's 26 years of age, there is no way that the public as a whole can finance something like that. They shouldn't be allowed to. You know what? If you want to go ahead and do this, that's fine, but you're not going to get $1 of public money.
Well, what concert did they had? While I was down there, they had a concert.
Swiftie was down there.
Yes, but they had a concert down there. I'm trying to remember. It might have been Metallica or something like that. It was raining. So they didn't postpone it, they just had to make it later.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think if you're looking at the Music City, concerts, wanting a Super Bowl, and I'm sure the NFL will oblige with that once they get that new stadium.
$2.1 billion, Reggie. 500 from the state of Tennessee.
You know what?
$760 million from the city of Nashville.
That kind of money would be a hurricane in whatever club I walked in.
But in Nashville,
840 from the NFL and the Titans.
I'm gonna say
so less than half.
That is going to be a stadium that is profitable because they will fill it up with concerts all the time. It'll work there.
I mean, I hear you. One, that is always the argument, to be fair. But two, I just, again, want to go on record, this is a 27-year-old stadium now, 26-year-old stadium, that they're building a new one, brand new one. I'm not saying it's right.
I was surprised when they said that. I really was. Because I was down there the first year the stadium opened. That was the year they made the Super Bowl.
When they gave Atlanta a third stadium in my lifetime, I said, "Oh, we have lost the plot."
I don't know.
The third baseball stadium.
I don't know that Olympic Stadium,
Peach Dome, and MetLife.
I don't.
Where Truist, where
they had Atlanta Stadium, then they built the stadium for the Olympics, and I don't know if that stadium was
permanent. It was
baseball. It was permanent, but you built it for track, other things. You didn't build it for baseball. So yeah, so And this new stadium is right outside.
But which one?
Atlanta
What was
proper.
the one before it? What was the name of the Braves Stadium before? It had an iconic name, didn't it?
It's Turner Field.
Turner Field, yes. Turner Field was built. Yeah, Ted built it, right?
No, the Olympics.
Oh, that's that
the
one.
Olympics.
Okay,
And they sold it to Georgia State,
that's right.
and now Georgia State plays their football games.
Right. And now they're at Truist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
I've been to all three.
I knew it was coming. When that happened, I said we're out of here. And it's unconscionable, but I guess that's where we're at now. I don't understand how that building they need a new building.
Now, I will say this.
Buffalo, do they need a new building? Yes.
Yes,
They need a roof.
absolutely.
I will say this, that the one thing about Comerica, I always thought they built it too small.
Too small?
Too small in terms of seating.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And I thought they built for 39. I think they did 42 with standing only.
Right.
I thought 45 would have been a good number.
Sure.
You don't want to build it as cavernous as Tiger Stadium, because I've seen in Tampa, which we can talk about a little bit later too, whereas you had to tarp off some things when attendance doesn't come.
Right.
But
And I mean, the Tigers were in that situation, in the dark times.
mm-hmm.
Early
2020.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna
It
say-
sounded like it was way back in medieval times.
Tigers fans are a little fickle sometimes. So
Well, here's the other part that you got to think of. You look at baseball as a sport. It doesn't have nearly the popularity that it did in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, right?
Right.
NFL obviously has taken that place. So when you look at it, a 40-something thousand seat stadium is more apropos for baseball, the game that it is now,
Yeah.
versus what it was during the days of Mantle and Ruth and all the legendary figures that have come from baseball. So
Yeah.
I can't necessarily blame the Tigers for going, 44?
Even
46,000?
they built
48.
42
42.
now. But even when you mentioned even back in the day when Maris hit homer in 61, there were only a couple thousand people in the stands.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
those stadiums were big, but they maybe in the World Series,
right.
but it wasn't like it is now. And then again, now you can watch almost every game on TV.
Yeah, it's so different. I don't understand. I honestly don't get where the good investment of building these palaces are, because nobody comes to the games anymore.
You know what, Jack? I think that is ultimately the collective ego of the city. And I think major metropolitan areas feel as if, if I'm going to compete with the big boys, then I have to have 2 of 4, 3 of 4, 4 of 4 of the major sports.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that, you could probably add soccer, which is beating at the door. And you know what? Even the WNBA is one of those other entities that, in order to be a major market, that's what you got to have.
But one thing you don't see is like when they built the Silverdome, 80,000 people.
No, you're not getting that.
You're not getting that
anymore.
anymore. With the advent of luxury suites, and other things, you're not getting that. And one could say that might be the avenue that the Tigers use to get a new stadium.
Yeah, they don't have enough luxury seating.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, it's
The
coming.
question would be, where would the Tigers build it?
Yes, they don't have a room. Where is anybody putting anything downtown?
It's not downtown. So you know what? You might have to. Where could you even play?
Say, where you putting?
Toledo for 3 years?
Oh, while you redo Comerica?
It's almost an impossibility.
Well, I'm thinking the one that recently, nowadays we have 2 teams playing in the minor league stadium in Sacramento and Tampa.
St. Pete.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're actually playing in Tampa now. The Tampa Rays are playing.
That's right, finally. Yeah. I hate it, but it's coming. And they're not even Well,
That's-
that's somebody asked first.
That's one place where you do need a roof.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen
Yes.
it yet, but they
It's
rain
coming.
out there plenty.
It's coming. Yeah, they absolutely need a roof in Tampa.
I've been in many games in Tampa where it's been pouring outside, but you're inside in the cool and watching the game.
With our changing climate, do you slap a roof on any new football or baseball stadium that they would build up here?
No.
No.
Well, then, the Ford Field already has a roof,
Right.
which is good, but
Yeah, but I
You know,
guess they're the actual one too.
one of the selling points, I think, of a lot of the, we're not down south, it was gonna rain a lot, is going to Comerica and looking out at the Detroit skyline.
Sure.
And I'm trying to think of another city like that, but yeah,
Pittsburgh.
a lot of these cities. San
Cincinnati,
Francisco, you look out in the bay.
Yeah.
Those are selling points there, and I think that I wouldn't schedule a lot of games in April here,
Right.
but I think that's a selling point, just to look out and see the skyline.
Well, until recently, guys, I would argue that having the public finance these stadiums have basically been major money losers.
Oh, they all are, essentially.
You want to talk about, they all talk about the activity, the jobs that are going to come as a result. It doesn't happen.
It just moves money around.
Now, and what I think one of the many things that we're seeing with the Tigers is the fact not that more people are deciding to do things as a result of the baseball game. More people live downtown and are closer to the game, therefore they end up staying downtown and doing more things after a ball game. Yeah. And that's a huge difference.
Correct.
And so if you talk about building a stadium with that being a component of trying to get people to live within a given area and not visit, then that, you can present that particular argument to me, and I can significantly go for that.
Sure.
We are getting a lot of people visiting for Tiger games.
Oh, yeah.
Downtown Detroit is popular again.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna segue here. Memphis, and I used to live in Nashville. My sons and I used to go to a lot of games in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, set the scene for the folks.
well, Memphis is a place.
Great barbecue.
The Gates brothers and I forget the Neely's.
Okay.
They have great food. They have a place called Beale Street where you've got a lot of music, restaurants, places like that. You got the Peabody Hotel where you have the ducks roaming. It's got a lot of class, but it's got it's got a lot of undercurrent. And I believe John Moran has gotten caught up in some of that. And it came out. I don't know if this caused them to make that trade, but a lot of players don't want to go play for Memphis because of the crime in the city.
According to Stephen A. Smith.
I saw somewhere they are. They've taken over our title as the murder capital of the world.
Yes.
And you got Lorenzen Wright, a former player who from Memphis, was murdered. Turns out by his wife, but
And let's
you just have a lot of things happening there.
But you know what? First of all, when we talk about cities and the so-called reputation of a town, let's be fair about this. The vast majority of murders that occur in any city, the victim knew the person that killed them, right? All right. So you know what? I would be more concerned, and I would be wanting to hear what are the crime statistics of people, either unsolved crimes that we can't connect a potential suspect to somebody, or a random shooting for which, occurs out of the blue. Those are the statistics that I want to hear. Because you know what? If I got 1,000 people, but 950 of the people that were killed knew the person that killed them, then I would say, you know what? You got to choose your friends better. Definitely. So, that's part of the reputation that Memphis gets. And I'm a little, little touched by it.
No, there's
That's true, but there still are a lot more. I would say this, and I'm trying to be honest and fair. There are probably a lot more neighborhoods that I wouldn't go in Memphis than they are in Detroit. And they're another one that have an overwhelming Black population. Not saying that that's the factor, but
That's economic issues at the end of the
yeah,
day.
you have.
You got distressed communities because you know what? These people are economically impoverished, don't see a future, all right? Even though there may be one, they don't see it. And as a result, you know what? You can't go forward in those communities. And much of the South has been like that for years. Atlanta, I think, is the one exception to that because there was always great intellectual capital as a result of all the universities and colleges in Atlanta. Nashville, to a lesser extent, same thing. A lot of Black intellectual capital in those cities, and as a result, people went to those institutions. They stayed in those areas, and those areas have thrived.
You could say New Orleans,
Yeah.
but then they have their issues too in some of those wards that still have not been built up since Katrina. But Memphis is an interesting case study. They brought casinos just like they did to Detroit.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The casinos are actually in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead, Jack.
My problem with the discourse around Memphis is how it's being discussed on the worldwide leader. I know Stephen A. think he want to run for president.
Well, he just calls himself the largest city in the
you know what I'm saying?
Tennessee, right?
No, it actually Nashville.
Is it Nashville now?
Wow.
Nashville has.
Wow.
But
yeah, I don't like. I know he want to be a Republican and blah blah blah. But don't be talking about that's family business. One and two. Why? What does that accomplish that you even bringing this up? Like, oh, this what guys telling me they don't want to go to Memphis. Like, I mean, did nobody want to go to Memphis to begin? Like, we knew that. You didn't need to disparage the city on television.
it is a basketball hotbed.
Right.
And personally, I can say that I've always had a good time in Memphis, had no problem.
Oh, sure.
I saw Kobe score 60 there. We went on a break. We saw that when he was on his
I
run
remember
and
that. Yeah,
scoring.
I remember that.
And the FedEx Forum is a nice place to watch a basketball game.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's never been, even when they first moved the team from Vancouver. I mean, we knew it wasn't going to be a destination for free agents, but there are a bunch of teams in the league like that. There's a team in Utah that nobody ever wants to go to. There's a team in Sacramento people don't want to play for.
Guys, let's be honest about it. There's a team in southeastern Michigan.
Yeah, I mean,
it's called Detroit. Nobody wants to come to Detroit.
We cheer for teams
unless
that
we
don't want
win.
to play for it. So,
I'll say this. When Detroit was at its worst, the Pistons were in Pontiac or Auburn Hills.
Yeah.
Now, when downtown started to turn around, hey, let's come back.
They came running back. Yeah.
So, and I think Detroit is one of those places, you're right. You got Miami, and every free agent now wants to go to Miami, right, and Dallas, or someplace where it's warm and no taxes. But Detroit is a place where people come to win.
Oh, for sure.
You know what? Here's what else Detroit is. Detroit has a thriving Black middle class. So you'll find that guys who have come to this city, and I can name a couple of them off the top of my head. Rasheed Wallace. If you ever talk to Rasheed Wallace, he loves the city of Detroit. Mm-hmm. He loves the city of Detroit because it's a Black town with Black people doing things in it.
And they love him.
Once again, we talked about it before. I think, the city of Detroit has a little bit of an inferiority complex. Not because that we think we're inferior, but we need the praise of people heaped upon us to say good things about the city of Detroit.
Detroit versus everybody.
And if you do that,
the first shirt that came out like that. Every other city has adopted that, but that came out in Detroit.
Luckily, Tommy has licensed that, so I believe he get paid off all of them. But yeah.
Good.
And if you look at a lot of the former Pistons that are still here, and Luther came in '77. Yeah. He's still here. That you get to the city and you like the city.
Yeah, you get embraced if you win. I mean, not even necessarily if you win, but like if you just integrate yourself into the community and the fabric of the community. I mean, Darren McCarty, the hood loved Darren McCarty. And we're not, we don't talk about hockey a lot on this show, but people recognize who's good, who's great, who's doing their thing in the city. I mean,
Detroit likes grimy people.
Yeah, man. Detroit, I mean, Bob Probert is a legend around. I see more Probert jerseys than anybody else, and he was best known for fighting. So Detroit will adopt you if you adopt it, and I think that's what a lot of the Lions, especially, are reaping the benefits of that.
I honestly believe that Jared Goff probably came here kicking and screaming, but once he got here, and they've shown him the love that they've shown him, he loves Detroit now.
Yeah, I just think that, but my issue with the Memphis discourse is Stephen A. even going there on live TV. I mean, I don't know what he gains from that. I don't know what I don't know what his end game with that is. Like, why?
Well, I know what it might be.
Well, yeah, but that makes it even worse.
Yes, it does.
Well, I mean, look, here's the one thing. It would appear that Stephen A. Smith has been approached by some very, very politically active people and very powerful people who feel that in this day and time of politics, you don't have to be a politician anymore with a steep history in order to become elected. And so, you know what? Stephen A. Smith has a platform, ESPN, for which they pay him $11 million. You know what? Stephen A. Smith has a podcast, which is very well received out there. So he's constantly able to get in front of people, whether he comes off as a Democrat or a Republican or somewhere in between, inconsequential. So what he's about is, once again, pushing that brand of Stephen A. Smith. But here's the one thing that I will say. Stephen A. Smith was born with a forked tongue. Stephen A. Smith has what my mom used to say is the gift of gab. There are people out there who are oftentimes not as bright as they sound when you break them down. Stephen A. Smith is one of those guys, for sure. Because when I hear him talk about politics, he can't talk about the intricacies of politics, the nuances of politics. He is a baby out of water right now, man. And you know what, Stephen A., take the money and run, man. But don't get yourself involved in that, because you know what? You are going to come off looking very, very bad.
Reggie, we can say so is the president right now. Now it's in politics. But, let's face it, Stephen A. is a black man in America.
But here's the difference.
I don't think that he should go that next level.
Well, we're not a political show, but the one thing that I don't think Stephen A. has the ability to do, your current president, bad or good, was able to get across a message to a wide swath of people who felt as if they were unheard.
Correct. Rightly or wrong.
Rightly or wrong, right? Who is Stephen A. appealing to?
Exactly.
First of all, half the country, or probably 70% of the country, don't even like sports.
Right. Don't even know who Stephen A. is.
So who are you appealing to?
Right. The 30% of the country that does like sports, probably more than half of which don't like him. I don't see the appeal.
Jack, I'd probably say 60 to 70%.
Right.
Kind of goes back to that thing of Howard Stern. You know what? How many people listen to Howard Stern? Well, you know what? 30% of people listen to Howard Stern for a half hour a day.
Sure.
People who dislike Howard Stern will listen to him for an hour a day because they listen to 8.
Right. That's how.
And that's Stephen A. Smith.
That's me and Stephen A. That's me and a certain personality on Detroit sports radio.
Valenti?
Yeah.
Why don't? Let me ask you something. Why don't you like? We got to send this into Valenti. Why don't you like Valenti?
I don't like Valenti because he's so much of a homer for. I don't like how he so blatantly is on the side and has to be on that side forever. Like, his Lions hate, while justified, is over the top, and his Michigan hate is over the top. And I mainly don't like how he have Rico currently and Terry
Foster.
I don't like he have them up there looking like house Negroes.
Seven vegetable.
Yeah. That's really why I don't like it.
I think that's part of the way they want it done now. You want one person anti whatever homer, you bring those fans out, and then you have some people pro home, and you bring the fans out, and you get a nice, good argument.
You know what I think ultimately what Valenti is, and not for this conversation to be a talk of sports media in this town, but I think Valenti is a classic New Yorker.
Oh yeah,
It comes across. I mean, he is opinionated about everything,
true.
and it ain't mild opinions.
Right.
They're strong opinions.
Yes.
But here's the one thing that I will say about Valenti. Over the years, he could have cared less about the Lions, really didn't like them. But you know what, though? I think he's not necessarily a Lions fan.
Nope.
But I think he does appreciate when this team is good.
Agreed.
And it's a much easier conversation to have when this team is good.
Oh yeah.
All right?
He's great at it. He's great at his job.
Look, I would say this. I've been listening to sports talk radio for a long time.
I just don't.
He's as good as there is.
Exactly. And I mean, Detroit is lucky to have a person like that because it raises the game of everybody else. But I can still openly admit that I don't really like listening to his opinion. And again, I really don't like how he be having Rico and Terry sound.
Yeah, I will say this, and we'll probably get off the subject. I would have loved to have seen a partnership, and you probably don't like him either, but Valenti and a Rob Parker.
Oh my God, that'd be there. I don't. Well, I have an appreciation for Rob Parker because shout out to Martin Weiss of Fox Sports, but yeah, that would have been epic.
I think that would have been
That would have
ideal.
been incredible.
Valenti's personality is too strong for almost anybody else that has had to deal with him.
They would have been explosive every game, though. That would have been stressful.
Terry Foster's voice was muted.
Yeah, don't even get me started.
That was the T. Foster's fault.
I know. Yeah.
All right. Rico going for that paycheck, man, at the end of the day. I need to be your student. Okay, how much you paying me? Okay, I'm good. And I don't know Rico, but I'm going to be honest with you. That's how it comes off.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of his opinions.
We got to get back a little bit.
It's fine. Sorry.
To the man, it's gonna be quick. We're not gonna spend too much time on it. NBA playoffs. You've got OKC up 3-2. Game 6 is in Indy, which I think is gonna be loud as I don't know what. Should Tyrese Halliburton have played after his injury? You know, there's one side of me that says if you're injured, don't play. But then I remember when Isaiah Thomas got hurt his leg.
Hurt the ankle, yeah.
Hurt his ankle. He went out and scored 22 points in that quarter. So you never know about adrenaline. And the other thing I think about is KD. When he went out and played on a somewhat similar injury, he goes out and tore his Achilles. And even David Lillard probably falls in that same category.
I mean, just on the discourse part of it, if you were watching the game, Stephen A. and Kendrick were killing Halliburton at halftime for trying to play through the injury, right? But if you think about it, or you don't think about it, if you go back to the Cleveland series, remember when Darius Garland was hurt, they were calling him everything but a child of God for sitting out.
You can't win that.
You can't. You cannot win for losing. So in Halliburton's case, you might as well try and play through it. That gives you at least the warrior nonsense or the grit steam.
Yeah, you know what? I think probably the thinking for Halliburton simply ended up being, you know what? If we lose a game, I'm still in this series.
Right.
Let's give you an additional 2 to 3 days to rest this injury, and let's see what you can come back for game 7.
I think he should. I personally think he should have sat, especially because of the way the game was going and how clearly compromised he is. And yes, like you said, you still have another game.
Yep.
But I completely see why he was like, no, I'm gutting this out.
Having said that, they got to within 2.
Right.
And then it fell apart.
And
But
it completely fell apart because he turned the ball over.
You can't win that. You just can't, because if you play, why are you playing? You hurt your team. If you don't play, you can't play through pain. You hurt your team.
Well, the adage is simply this: you play if you're better than the guy who you would replace you, and if you're not, then you sit the bench.
TJ McConnell was hooping.
But I think there's a different level of that when you're talking about your star player.
Oh yeah.
If it were the fifth man, if it were just Benedict Matherin,
Right.
he just wouldn't play.
Right.
But when you have your star out there, he's got to give it. He's got to try.
Well, I mean, you got you got your Willis Reed, you've got your Paul Pierce in the wheelchair, you've got your. I mean, you know, NBA, it's entertainment, and we like stories, and we like lore. And yeah, if he came out, you know, the flu game, you know, if he came out on one leg essentially and willed his team to victory in Oklahoma City and was able to bring it back
That's
for
a
Game
huge
6,
story, yeah.
that's you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And he is aware of all. Obviously, he's aware. He did the Reggie Choke celebration against the Knicks. Like he's clearly paying attention to his place in the game and what's going on. So
Oh, I think he's cemented his place in the game as a stone assassin.
yeah, man, I think Tyrese Halliburton has arrived, and we're just waiting on him to have his coordination. I don't know if he's going to get it done. To answer your question, I don't think. I think they win. I do think they can win Game 6 even without him.
Well, that's the next question. Can they win Game 6?
I think they can win Game 6 without him. But I don't see them taking it. Even with him, I don't think they take Game 7 in Oklahoma City.
You know, I thought Oklahoma City was going to win this in 5.
Right.
One of the things that I'm seeing out here is Williams he's a real star. I mean, the guy's playing on both sides of the court, right? And when you need it, he's coming down with 35 and 40 points, man. I mean, he's killing. All right. And here's the other thing that people, I think, are failing to realize about this OKC team. In today's NBA, you're lucky if you have 2 superstars. I think OKC has a willing superstar who's the third banana, Joe. I mean, he does a lot of dirty stuff with his team that I didn't think he was going to be capable of doing.
I don't think he's there yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely.
You know,
I ain't calling him a superstar, no. But
no, because what's his name has been cooking it too.
yeah, Miles is there as well.
And even Tyrese has gotten a couple of shout outs when his leg as well.
I think Jalen Williams has arrived.
No
I
question.
agree. I think he's our top 25.
He's top.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
what are you all NBA too?
yeah, he was all NBA. He's at least top 15. Who's their MVP? Shea Gilgeous-Alexander or Jalen Williams?
I think it's Jalen.
I think it's Jay Williams.
So you got the MVP of the league and the MVP of the team. Yay.
But if they give it to Shea, I'm not going to be upset. I mean, he getting what 35 in the finals. So
Jalen started out rusty, but you know he's averaged 32 in the last 3.
that's crazy.
Yeah, but Jay Williams is giving it to him, and he's not necessarily the guy that you expect to do on the offensive side of the ball.
And he playing deep. And he playing Jalen.
Lights out.
Locking up on defense.
Lights out defense. Yeah.
Next quick question: where should KD to go?
To the hell. No. I don't know why it doesn't work in Phoenix. I don't know why he has to go anywhere.
Bradley Beal is the reason he has to go and why it's not working. If you ask me,
Okay, I mean, I'm with that.
I would have thought you'd have been better off keeping Mikal Bridges
Yes,
and having some more depth around him.
for sure.
And, you know, KD and homeboy.
Is KD a rental? So you're only trading for 1 year?
For 1 year. And
It depends on where it goes.
the rumors are that he wants $110 million extension. I'm not giving a
2?
2.
So what, 2 years?
He wants a 2-year
Yeah.
extension. Yep.
So he wants.
So he wants the extension that
Until 40.
yeah. So he wants that extension that
He
was
wants
due
that
to him
extension?
from Phoenix. Correct. You're gonna sign KD for 110 mil,
Yes, but
and what are you gonna give up?
that's the other thing.
Yeah, what are you gonna give up for?
Things for him.
You know, he's a much better player than Mikal Bridges and Desmond Bain, but he's not gonna go for 4 or 5 draft pick number ones. He's just not.
Why not?
At 37, you're gonna be giving away a draft pick when he's out the league.
Okay, but who's what is the universe of teams that's trading for a Kevin Durant? They're all going for it, right? So what do they care about them picks?
They mean nothing.
I mean, they trade eighth graders at the end of the day.
Well, Miami, I don't think they have enough to get.
What's the 2030 draft pick? What are they doing right now? They're 14, they're 15 years old.
They're sophomores or freshmen.
Yeah, man, they don't care about these picks. If they get a ring this year,
Here's the other thing. Suppose you do trade him for a 2030 or 2032 pick. He's out the league, your team tanks. That's a lot of picks. That's a lot. So you really got to.
But you're not going to be able to have it both ways. You know what? I'd rather a team take a chance, right?
oh, for sure.
As opposed to kind of sitting on the sidelines and saying, well, hey, you know what? We got enough talent on board and it's going to be good enough for us to be able to get it done. Look, one of the teams that people have targeted or said would be ideal, your boy Stephen A. said Detroit would be a perfect landing spot for Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant would not survive here.
Why wouldn't he?
Because he's too soft.
Kevin, you know what?
He's from the DMV.
No, I'm not talking about like people being violent towards him or whatever. I'm talking about he can't take criticism well enough to.
He's not getting a lot of criticism in this now. And I think initially, it probably, I'd say the first at least 4 to 5 months would be a honeymoon period for Kevin Durant.
I'm with it. Bring him. Hey, bring KD to business. I'm all for it, but what you trade for?
Well, you know your boy Jay Knight is up out of here, man.
I know. Yeah, I mean, and
Up out of here. Why? In the trade or?
Or he'd be out of about
yeah,
here.
you gotta trade. You gotta trade him
He gone.
for KD. Yeah,
He's gone.
Isn't he? He's under contract or
He's up for an
No.
extension.
He's up for an extension.
He's
Okay.
under contract.
And so he's saying whoever I get traded to has to sign me for $110 million extension. That's what he would have gotten.
No.
give him to Wemby and let them figure it out.
I think they're in a better case because they got young players.
Yeah, they got a whole bunch
But
of
you know,
guys.
they're talking about in San Antonio, keeping Wemby,
right,
keeping Fox,
right.
and keeping somebody else. What you gonna trade?
Keeping Castle.
I would think they would like to, and they got the number 2 pick in the draft this year.
Well, yeah, you get a 2, and then Sochan and Vessel and Keldon Johnson and actually, yeah, I mean, ain't that it?
I hear they're not looking to trade that much. But here's another interesting fact. He wants to go to New York now. When New York wanted him about, what was it, Reggie, about 5 years ago?
4 years, yeah, 5 years
He
ago.
listened to Kyrie.
Went to New Jersey.
No, you don't want that pressure. We're going to go to Jersey.
By the fact that you say you don't want that pressure makes me think about of you being suspect in the first place.
Which is why I don't want him in Detroit like that. I mean, again,
But
it's
the pressure-
KD, he can come.
But the pressure is not the same here as
No,
it is
sure.
in New York. You know what? I mean, this town would be look. You would see more KD jerseys than you can shake a stick at. Ideally, and here's the other part. You know what? I'm bringing up Mr. Jones, who's not here today, but I commented also, and I tend to agree with him. It takes the pressure off of Cade having to be a big shot guy at the end of the game.
Sure.
Now you got a guy who's been proven for the last how many years it's been that you know what? Hey, give me the ball. I'm more than happy to take on that bird.
So KD becomes Batman? And Cade is the Robin?
You know what? I'll put it to you this way. It's more kind of like Batman and Superman. You know what? How do you want to be killed? Is this one of the things where I got to fight you in the streets? Or is this some intergalactic thing?
Nonsense? Okay.
I'll just say it kind of reminds me of one trade that this has made with Blake Griffin. He started out strong and the injuries took over.
Yeah, KD is about to be
And you would be afraid
on his second.
that
Second
injuries take over and
Well, here's where I'd be a little bit less afraid because KD's game has never been determined by athleticism.
True.
It's all about skill. It's about the ability, you know what, to come off screens, put the ball up in the air, and make it go down in the basket. And you know what? He can still do that with the very best of them to this very day. All right? You're not asking him to play 40 minutes a night. You know what? You're asking the KD to play 28 to 32 minutes a night.
That would what you would have to trade to get him.
Yeah, I think
Who would bench?
That's what your GM is for.
I mean,
You got to surround. I mean, you're probably going to have to give up.
you have to give up Ivy. You probably have to give up.
Ivy Stewart,
Stewart.
and Tobias Harris.
All three of those guys.
Is that it?
And 3 draft picks.
And 3 draft picks.
Yep.
That was proposed by ESPN, but
I don't rank that.
Minimally 2. I mean,
Yeah, 2 is okay. 2 I can talk about. 3?
it's a strong possibility you have to give up 3 draft picks.
but if he doesn't want to come here, that's a 1-year rental.
So that's 26, 28, and 30.
Well, here's the other thing.
That's a little bit much.
Here's the other thing you got to take a look at too. How good are the Pistons? How good are the Pistons versus the Orlando Magic with what they've done?
This is not as good as the Magic right now. On paper.
On paper.
With everybody healthy, they're not as good as the Magic right now.
How good can the Pistons still be with a young cast of characters development?
And I'm surprised, like I said, they didn't give up any of Michigan side.
Yeah, I was surprised too.
They still have about 4 or 5 players from U of M.
Uh,
The Magic are an intriguing proposition. I still don't know if they have enough.
They might have enough this specific year because in the East, because of Boston's struggles, or not struggles, containment problem.
But in the Pistons, theoretically, you're getting back your 3rd best player in Jay Ivey.
And your 4th best player,
Stewart.
5th best player.
So,
And Ivy is still ascending. You know what? We expected him to make huge strides last year, for which he got hurt.
I don't want the Pistons to trade Ivy for nothing.
yeah, because if Ivy comes back and reasonably gets 19 points a game, that's what Desmond Bain is about averaging.
Jaden Ivey for Miles Booker and some draft picks.
Miles, who?
For
I mean,
Devin Booker?
I'm sorry, Devin Booker.
Oh yeah, sure, fine, okay, yeah, okay. If it's Ivy and they can have 3 if it's Booker, sure, okay.
You know, a lot of this is truly determined by how Pistons management sees this team. You know what? Is this a team that's ready to take advantage of a window that's a very short window of 1 to 2 years? Or is this a team that, you know what, you can build for the next 3 to 5 years and be able to compete in the East?
Stranger Lightning has to also look at fit. Would KD fit with this young core?
I think it would fit because, you know what, I think everybody looks to KD for leadership.
He ain't the one to be leading, though.
What, from this perspective, he's not the one who has to necessarily lead as far as being vocal. His play will dictate that.
Because this was a real close-knit team.
Who is the Pistons' vocal leader? Because Cade isn't necessarily a vocal guy
I
from
think
all
it might
accounts.
be.
These two,
Actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You know, I look at the veterans and Beasley, Hardaway, and Harris.
Just a bunch of crash. Actually, you know what?
You know what?
It fits perfectly. It's a bunch of crash house on this team.
you know what those guys are? That's what you call solid professionals, man. They know how to be pro.
There's a bunch of it's low-key a bunch of insane people on this team. So he might fit perfectly.
I mean, you take a look at a guy like Hardaway. Hardaway's been in the league for 10 years.
And Timmy a dog. Yeah, Timmy a dog. So yeah, Beasley has his experiences. Bring KD here. I don't like the idea of trading for Kevin Durant because of what it would cost and who it's going to be. But yeah, bring Kevin Durant here. But for other teams, yeah, the best basketball fit is probably San Antonio. There's no way he can go to New York and that team still makes any sort of sense based on what they would have to give up to get him. So
No way you go to Miami.
yeah, I don't.
And what's his other team? Houston, they're intriguing.
Houston would be interesting, but what do they want to give up for KD?
Well, look, guys, as you take a look at this Pistons team, there are 4 guys on this, well, actually, maybe even 5, who can take some really big steps over the course of next year. I mean, is Cade Cunningham at his apex? I don't think so. Is Jalen Duren at his apex? Nope. Asar Thompson, definitely not, right?
Ronnie.
Malik Beasley, yeah, that's what you're gonna get. Isaiah Stewart is what you're gonna get.
But Ronnie.
Jaden Ivey, definitely not. No. Yeah.
Holland.
You got guys out here
And
who
I'll
are
tell you
still on
who
the
else is a wild card. Marcus Sasser.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about Sass. Yeah.
Yep. But here's the thing: next year, going into next year's season, you catch nobody by surprise. You know, you're going to get much better. You know what? When they have to go in and play Chicago, Oklahoma, not Oklahoma, excuse me, or Orlando, who's kind of a downtrodden team.
Atlanta.
You know what? Atlanta's going to say, hey, we got something to prove, man. You can't take this team.
I don't think they really caught anybody by surprise this year after that start.
The start, they caught people by surprise. Once they got into the latter part of the season, once they got into 2025, no, I don't think they caught anybody by surprise.
I don't know if we want to move on yet. I do want to say real quick. I know this is a Calgary Flames jersey. This is a Matthew Tkachuk tribute. This is his sweater, but the Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup this week. He scored the series clinching goal in game 5. Game 6, excuse me. But apparently he did it with a sports hernia and a torn adductor on the same side. So
Toughest guys in pro sports.
By far.
Toughest guys in pro sports.
Let's take a quick break and then we'll have Tiger Talk.
I can't even imagine that, man.
No, that sounds nasty. Is this your boy, Red John Luke?
It is, John. This is my boy.
My boy's whole side of his body is like not attached.
That motherfucker's so tough. That sport, man. Them motherfuckers go out there and play with no teeth.
Right? That's crazy.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. They spit the teeth out and go right back on the ice, man. They don't care.
Them the toughest motherfuckers. That's why, you know, with certain white boys, you don't fuck with them. Because they'd rather die. Yeah. They need some hot for them. No, I didn't even know. I looked at it. I just saw the fellas. I thought it was kids.
I did.
I will say this.
I like hockey jerseys.
Hockey jerseys are the nicest.
Yeah.
Because the fit and everything.
Man, I love the way them these put hoodie on and all that.
Yep.
You can't wear them necessarily too much in the summer. I wear it today because
How much that jersey cost? Yeah.
I used to have to fly.
I got a ship with one of my clients, man. He runs a youth football team for him. Okay. But he went and got all his stuff over Indian. Okay. You know, so like all the uniforms and shit like that.
Okay, that's ready.
Yeah, I mean, they're nice.
Yeah, this is, I think it's not authentic, but it's like a rep of authentic.
Yeah.
So, because that's why I got this.
Wait, did Chuck score the only goal that my man didn't score?
Basically. Yeah, basically. He's an animal.
This is cut 1986. Modern times. George Vincent. Jean.
All right, let's go. That was a nice break, which is from Jean-Luc Ponty. Now, time for Tiger Talk. Tariq Skubal was scheduled to pitch tonight. Tigers rained it out early, and I was like, why'd they do that? But as I hear, the weather out there is raining cats and dogs right now, so they were wise to do that. and not waste that start. He's going to start tomorrow. Now, ideal situation would be with the probable starter on the NL. What's his name, Jack?
Paul Skeens.
Paul Skeens to start against him, but I think School's going in game 1 and Skeens in game 2.
I'm gonna need Pittsburgh to get together for the fans on this one. Because Patterson ain't playing tonight, so just swap the point.
We'll see. They might. Now, how many All-Stars do you think the Tigers will have? All-Star voting is until June 26th. I voted today.
Only once?
6 times. I voted the limit. I probably will go to another email address to try to vote again. But anyway, you know, I look at it.
3?
School ball is a lock.
Right.
Right now,
Starting.
Right now, Torkelson is leading first baseman in RBIs and home runs. I think he's 4th.
For first baseman?
Mm-hmm. Gleyber Torres is number 1 at second base.
This is in balloting, correct?
Yes.
Fan balloting? Yes.
You don't have anybody short or third. McKinstry's down the road a lot. Green, I think, is 2nd. And surprise, surprise, Javi Baez is 4th in the voting for outfielders.
Javi Baez getting an all-star after what he's gone through would be an incredible story.
And I think the catcher is 3rd.
Jake or the other one?
The other one, Dylan Dingler.
That throw, did you see that throw he made this weekend? Him and Javi were making magic this weekend. They gunned the guy down. It was the ball maybe was 7 feet off 3 feet off the ground the whole time. It was incredible.
Dark horse may be Casey Mize, who I think is like 7-1, but they probably overlook him. But you know, they've got a chance to have more than last year they had 2. This year they have a chance to have multiple. The only thing that hurts you in the MLB All-Stars, every team has to get a representative. No other sport has it like that. You know, when the Tigers only won 43 games, they had an All-Star. Maybe not deserving, but they had an All-Star.
Right.
Colorado will have an All-Star this year.
So how much of it is, remind me again, is the MLB done exclusively by fan vote, or do they lie like the NBA does and just they let people vote and then be like, nah, this is the players and the coaches pick?
I think players and coaches have a stake in it, just like NBA.
I think the largest percentage of it.
Largest fans with the MLB.
And then they walk. You remember they all have a last one in,
Oh, that's right, yeah.
and they'll give the fans a chance to get a deserving player.
The straight fan vote, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Torque's 4th, Gleyber's 1st. I think at least 3. I think Javi gets in on some on one of the last spots in. I don't think McKinstry gets in, but I think Javi's in there.
Javi's having a heck of a season. A season that nobody, not even his own mama, thought he would.
And Riley's gonna be there.
Yeah, because he's leading the Tigers in home runs and RBIs.
Yeah, Riley will be there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize Aaron Judge had a million more votes than the next closest guy. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, if you're in New York, they get out and vote for you.
Yeah, because Goldie's leading the first base. Dingler might. Are they taking? They're taking 2 catchers, right?
Cal Raleigh will get in with 27 home runs.
Yeah, they only say 1 catcher.
Well, it take 2. You gotta have a substitute. True.
Yeah, so Dingler's got a chance there too. So yeah, we're looking at 3 or 4. Definitely, absolutely 2 in Green and Schuylkill. And then you look at Gleyber.
Well, sure.
Gleyber's probably a lot.
Yeah. I don't see anybody at second base is going to,
Yeah, because Altuve doesn't really even play second anymore. Jazz ain't played any baseball. Jackson Holiday is the second leading vote getter currently, but yeah, I think
He's just starting to come around. When they played the Tigers, he was not having a
right.
good year at that point. So it's just like a spades hand.
Yeah,
Probably
right.
three and
Three
two
and
possible.
two possibles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with that.
Now, they had 4 errors in the game Sunday. Is this something to be concerned about or a one-time thing? One of them was on a ball hit the shortstop with Javi Baez where the end of the bat went out about as far as the ball. He had to make a business decision. And, I think it's more a flash in the pan. You have 162 games. You're going to have some that stack up as clunkers.
I think, I think it's more just a blip. AJ Hinch is very big on the fundamentals. Defense has been stretched with this team for a little bit. So I think it was just we've seen, there's been a game this season where a player, not on the Tigers, but a player made 3 errors in 1 inning playing for the Marlins. So, it happens to big leaguers. It's crazy when it happens to them, but I think they'll be just fine.
And let me say this, I forgot to say this, Javi Baez is 4th in the Major League outfield.
Yes.
In the American League.
Yeah, so it's possible the Tigers have 2 of the starting outfielders in the All-Star.
Now, are you going to play Javi now at short or third base? Because you might need to get a third baseman. So we'll see.
Yes, I guess it's time to pry Nolan loose, right?
Because Trey Sweeney, he's on a milk carton right now. I don't think we've seen him in a while. And that's okay because he's young. He can go down to the minors and do something. But speaking of the minors, we have Jemai Jones, whose father played for the Lions, and I think his brother was in Camp Andre with the Lions.
Okay.
And he has become, because he's not going to play in the outfield that much.
Right.
But what he has become is a right-handed hitting specialist. You remember Andy Ibanez did that last year, great. This year he wasn't too good. He's down in the minors, and they brought up Jones. Now Jones was on the New York Yankees last year, but only batted 40 times. He's going to get that probably in the next week here.
Yeah, he has a pretty good at bat if I remember for the Yankees. I know he had at least 1 homer. Might have been a walk-off of some sort as well. So yeah, he put some good at bats together.
So that makes you wonder what the heck was the Yankees manager thinking?
He's an outfielder now. We had a Bev Verdugo nonsense was.
If you look at Torres, Meadows, and Green, we do too. But he's going to work him. That's what AJ does. He'll work you in, DH. I think he might play a little bit of infield. They're working on it in the spring.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works out. I wish the best for the young man. Hall of Fame game is 6 weeks away. A couple of quick hitters on the Lions. Will Alex Anzalone be a distraction or will he come into camp? No, we've heard about TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson, the young man down in Dallas. All of them, but we haven't heard much about this. And, if I look at it, Anzalone is about, 32? You've got young Derek Barnes, young Jack Campbell, young Rodrigo. Is he flexing his muscles where he shouldn't flex?
I think Alex Anzalone has bit off more than he can chew with this. I mean, not bit off more than chew. Obviously, he's grown, he can handle it, but I don't think Alex Anzalone needs to be anybody holding out on anybody.
Well,
not a current Alex Anzalone.
What is Anzalone holding out for?
I think he wants to renegotiate his contract.
So he probably is his agent, and it's true, at the age of what is he, 31?
I think 31, 32.
Something like that, yeah.
This might be like the last opportunity that he gets to get any more money than what he's going to make right now. So given that, if the Lions can potentially come, and it ain't going to be a lot more that they're going to end up giving the guys, you know, and when we say a lot, it's life-changing money to us. But you know what? It's $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, something like that.
Is that all he's holding out for? Again, all relative, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, it's not. Look, here's what we do know: when he wasn't playing, this defense, as far as the linebacking core is concerned, wasn't as good. When he did play, they were much better.
Sure.
All right. There's no doubt about it. I think defensively, you know what? He's the emotional, spiritual leader of that defense. I'll give him that. But how much is he worth in the open market?
When he wasn't playing, Reggie, Derek Barnes was hurt.
Much people wasn't playing.
Rodrigo was hurt. So they were playing Larry Curley and Mo at linebacker with Jack Campbell.
Look, I think
so.
Here's the part that you got. Anzalone arguably had his best season with the Detroit Lions last year, even with the 2 or 3 games that he found himself hurt. It seems as if he played faster in his defense than I've ever seen him. Not that he was faster, but it looked as if he were able to anticipate plays far better in this defensive scheme that was run last year. You know what? Am I mad at him trying to get some money? Absolutely not. I don't think any player on that Detroit line roster right now is upset at a player trying to get some additional money. Will the Lions pay it? I think they will, but neither of them are going to give what the other thinks is going to get out of it.
Did all this, you think, come about after Ragnar retired? They had $9 million to play around with?
No.
I think he was doing this before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which fine.
Now, do you believe in a more mature Jameson Williams? I've heard, and Luther said that he's been a lot more mature in practice this year. Or is this a ploy for his option year?
No, look, Jameis trying to get paid, man. I'm sure his agent, his father, anybody who's close to this guy said, look, man, you know what? You are now playing for real money, brother. You know what? You got a nice contract as a rookie. Fantastic. He's playing for top 2 wide receiver money right now.
Yeah.
So I think arguably he's still considered to be a number 2 by almost every team in the NFL, I would think. I don't think he's seen as a primary wideout. But as a number 2, you know, he's looking at $20-something million a year. That's what J-Mo's fighting for right now. And you have to decide whether you're going to sign him or not. Once again, Lions are not going to be able to sign everybody. You're not going to be able to sign Branch. You're not going to be able to sign Campbell. You're not going to be able to sign the tight end. You're not going to be able to sign Gibbs. You're not going to be able to.
No, you got to sign some of those guys, Reggie. You can't lose all.
You're not going to be able to sign all of them. That's the thing.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying listing 4 or 5.
But look at the guys that I'm listing and look at what kind of money they should be expecting. You think Branch is going to take less than his teammates got?
I have a sneaky feeling that J-Mo's going to get paid. I don't have any insider information. This is purely vibes.
By the Lions?
I think the Lions will pay J-Mo because I think that you cannot guarantee that you're going to have a J-Mo on your team.
He makes that offense unstoppable.
Yes, kids are bigger, faster, stronger than they've ever been, but you cannot guarantee you get 4-3 every week.
No, you don't. I mean, look, he's taking a leaps and bound increase in his overall productivity with the Detroit Lions. There's no question about that. I just look at J-Mo and I said, as good as he is, who do I get rid of? I got to get rid of something. If I keep him, then I got to get rid of somebody.
You downgrade on Laporta a little. You probably can get you other tight end. You get you one of the Brocks to come back. You probably gotta convince Branch, hey brother, you just can't have as much as Carey.
Right now, it might be between Branch and James teammates at Alabama, Branch and Williams.
Yeah.
See, and I guess for me, I find Branch's contribution to that secondary more valuable than his teammate at the other safety position.
I agree.
Now, this leads me,
even than Carey.
that's who he was talking about.
Did he tell you something? Okay.
Now, this leads me to my next thing, which might be a way to get J-Mo back. When do the Lions need to look for Jared Goff's replacement?
Well, one of our co-hosts would say every year or yesterday.
Look,
To be fair, the answer is probably
next 2 to 3 years.
now.
Well, you look at the NFC North, you've got J.J. McCartney, who's about 22, 23. You've got Caleb Williams, same age group. You've got Caleb Love, might be 27.
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love, yeah. And Goff is what, about 29, 30?
I think Goff is 30.
30. So he's still fairly young, but at that price,
He's very young.
what's going to happen
Thank
is
you very much.
to sign a lot of these weapons, you might have to get your young quarterback on a rookie scale.
Yeah, but see, here's the problem. You know what? When it comes to the quarterback position, a known is much better than an unknown. And so when you start talking about rookie quarterbacks out there, you know what? Are you willing to risk your entire season on a young guy who is yet to be proven?
Well,
So, for example, you know, what you're saying in Minnesota, you're expecting JJ to be the gatekeeper. Basically, you're not asking him to go above and beyond and put a team on your shoulder.
JJ needs to win a title before he needs an extension, is the goal there.
He's got to win the NFC North. I think JJ's got to win the NFC, not necessarily a Super Bowl.
No, that team is as currently constructed.
That team is loaded.
That team need to win a Super Bowl before he needs an extension.
But that's the same thing you can say about the Detroit Lions.
1 trillion%.
Yeah, that's the same thing you can say about the Detroit Lions.
That's the same thing you say about the Packers.
if you draft one next year, you give him 1 or 2 years, probably 2 years. Yeah.
That's like the red mop.
Oh,
No, that's not.
You give him 1 or 2 years to adjust.
wait. We sure it's thunder? Do I need to check?
Yeah, it's pouring down.
You
Yeah,
check
it's
what your
pouring
president been doing?
Now, well, hopefully it wouldn't be on Grand River, Wyoming. We'll have a factory over here. But I just think that in the next 1 or 2 years, in this next draft, if it's full of quarterbacks, maybe you go up and get one.
You think they're gonna get Arch or something like?
No, Archer, you won't be able to get.
Sure. Okay. So but you're saying a guy,
Mm-hmm.
second or third round?
Maybe
What
late,
about Hooker?
if you get your guy, maybe late
Okay, the
first.
same thing.
But I don't know because they talked about Hooker and they're talking about always the trade prospect. So this is something to see.
Well, typically, let's take a look at the team in our division, the Green Bay Packers. Usually, when they've gone out and looked for a quarterback, that quarterback, the guy on his way out, is typically been about 33 to 36 years of age, right?
Yeah.
So Brett Favre, those 2-3 years that he was playing for Green Bay, the Jets in Minnesota,
Yeah.
he was in his late 30s, early 40s.
Right.
Obviously, my least favorite quarterback of all time, currently playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Aaron Rodgers. You know what? Kind of the same thing. Matter of fact, a little bit older than what Brett Favre was. But you could clearly mark out that these guys had definable talents, and you were able to creep yourself into the first round and be able to do that. So you're still talking about a Jared Goff who's probably at the apex of his game right now for maybe the next 2 to 3 years. It'd be tough. And when you look at the money that will be owed him at that point in time, he's getting paid top 15 quarterback money at that point in time. So do you really want to go out there and try to sacrifice that?
He's getting paid $53 million a year right now.
$53 million, but that's not. I think that's top 9 or top 10 now, and he
Top
just
10.
signed that contract.
And, if you were to put that 53 million into maybe 2-3 contracts, I don't know. It's just something I'm thinking about.
Yeah, $53 million though on an unknown
I mean,
client.
that's Branch and JMO right there.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, but you got to have a guy that's unquestionably
Plus some, actually.
as a rookie quarterback. Think about it, guys. How many rookie quarterbacks are successful?
No, I would say you give that quarterback at least a Pat Mahomes year to sit.
Okay, but wait. I know a lot of people that think anybody can do what Jared Goff is doing. There's a whole bunch of people that say
No,
Jared Goff just a bus driver.
no.
Just a bus rider.
No. Matter of fact, I think it's more difficult to do what Jared Goff does than, matter of fact, a more athletic quarterback.
I'm not even talking about the athletic part. I'm talking about there's a segment of the fan base that believes Jared Goff is just a guy.
That's an uninformed fan.
But I will say this. I think the Lions are at their best when you only pass them 20 to 25 times a game.
But here's what I
And you
also
let that running game go.
But that's also 29 out of 32 quarterbacks in the league, though, are best when they pass 32 to 25
Well,
times.
I'm talking about the Lions offense. And this brings up to another point. You've got Jahmyr Gibbs. Last year, in 250 rushes, he had 1,412 yards and 16 touchdowns and 52 receptions for 512 yards. If you were to bump that up to maybe 310, 320 carries, could he rush for 2,000 yards?
My only trepidation with that is Underwood missed how many games? He missed 2.
Gibbs last year?
I mean, no, the other
Montgomery.
Montgomery. I mean,
Like 3 or 4.
Yeah. So I think Gibbs got a little extra run during those games that he won't necessarily, hopefully, won't get this year.
Well, do you think they're going to move him to like quote unquote starter instead of a 50-50 split? It might be
Nope.
60-40,
Nope.
65-35.
I mean, I tend to think they're going to continue exactly how they've been playing those two guys. It's going to be thunder and lightning. You know what? Because here's the other thing, too, guys. The Detroit Lions will want to prove to themselves, and more importantly, the rest of the league, that offensive line is still going to be formidable. All right? And in order to be able to do that, you've got to have that guy. And granted, you know what? Gibbs will run between the tackles, and he's very good at it. But it's easier to run between the tackles when oftentimes you're not getting hit for the first 2.5 to 4 yards. And a lot of times, J-Mo just wouldn't. I mean, Gibbs just was not getting hit, guys, for a sizable, a decent amount of yards before first touch.
And if he can get past that first line of defense,
Then it's over.
he's always a threat to go all the way.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not saying that you run him into the ground, but I'm just saying as he gets older and mature, he might have even more of those
I think
80-yard touchdowns.
I think he is a 2,000-yard rusher in the future. I just don't know.
If you're giving him the ball 25 to 30 times.
Yeah, I just don't know if he's getting it one this year or two. I think he's certainly capable of 2,000 yards. I just don't know if he'll ever get the amount of carries that it would
And
take.
let's face it, 200 yards, 2,000 yards is not what it used to be.
No, 17 games.
Because you got 17 games.
OJ Simpson had the best running back season to me, personally.
Mm-hmm.
I know I was not alive to see it, but 2014 games
Yeah,
is
Juice was doing a lot of slicing and dicing, wasn't he?
Brother,
A lot of slicing and dicing.
that is some running the football.
No,
That is
you know,
total rock.
I was fortunate enough to be at the 1975 game, Thanksgiving Day. Yep, the Detroit Lions versus and at the time, OJ rushed for 75 yards, which was
Thanksgiving.
on Thanksgiving Day. It was the best game ever. The Detroit Lions won, and my favorite running back then went off.
And the Lions still won.
And the Lions still won. Lions still won.
That was back in the day.
2,000 yards in 14 games is something that is unconscionable to me. especially nowadays.
Well, think about this. Jim Brown was running for 1,800 and some yards in 12.
1863 and 12.
That's I don't
It's
know
unthinkable.
how to I don't know how to put that in words.
And
That's college stuff.
it also is unconscionable that we've run out of time.
Oh,
We've come to the. I mean, we just got to. You know, the Lakers wasn't even on the program to talk about, but that, you know, as always, when we have a breaking story come up, we're gonna cover it.
The Lakers.
So
oh yeah, you've been up the loop. Lakers got sold $10 billion.
What?
you see, we even shocked the fan over here.
We still shocking the voice of the fan.
Yeah.
But we're gonna sign out now. James Wardell. We'll see you next week.
Good night, Detroit.
Oh, Reggie, I'm out of here. Remember, fellas, like your women the way you like your cereal. Nothing honey. Yes, sir.
What are we going to do?
Yeah, we call the honey butter toast almond. Since I'm in a room with a whole bunch of seasoned individuals.
Oh man, Fruit Loops. Gotta do the Fruit Loops, man.